Bula Vinaka, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up, we visit Auckland's newest inclusive rugby team. The directors of Nauru's first feature film, Hopa, inspires the next generation of storytellers. The first to Fiji, where security forces are again in the spotlight after another civilian death. Fiji police have admitted that 12 officers were present in a raid which is being investigated over allegations that a man was severely beaten. Sakiasi Ose died 4 days ago, nearly a month after the raid, prompting a police investigation. His family say they are looking for answers and want the public to know what really happened to him. Kaya Selby reports. And a warning, the story contains details and audio that listeners may find distressing.
On a warm April night, Buna was woken at 3 a.m. by a loud pounding on the door. Nervous to open it, she called her uncle. There were flashes of light through the windows, and standing at the door was a military officer in uniform, demanding to see Buna's cousin, Sakiasi. But they had the wrong house. Sakiasi was a few doors down.
He had informed our uncle that there were some soldiers that were already present, that some soldiers were already there and that they wanted to go and see him. So straight after they had left, my uncle and our cousin, younger cousin, they also went. They wanted to see what would actually happen.
The officer took off down the road with Buna and her family close behind. Sakiasi's house, she recalls, was surrounded by cop cars, people banging on windows, and uniformed men walking in and out. She could hear her cousin from outside.
They were just banging on the windows. They were trying their way to actually break in the house. We could actually hear that our cousin was actually screaming and yelling for his life, but that didn't actually change any response from them on how they were actually beating him up.
That was April 23rd. Less than a month later, Sakiasi Ose was dead. His family say he had suffered greatly through that time, often unable to sit or lie down without intense pain. When they could get him to go to the hospital, he would be given Panadol. On June the 4th, on his third trip, he collapsed.
My sister-in-law had asked Putu, do you want to? Let's go. And he refused.
That's Sakiasi's aunt, Elizabeth.
And even when they questioned him on what had happened, and even just the word, I was beaten, that's how we assumed the officers came when he had died. You say you were beaten by police and by army, that's like, the guards are up.
Sakiasi's family says he never felt it was safe to turn to any authority in Fiji. This comes at a time when military officers are patrolling the streets bearing automatic weapons, ostensibly as part of a joint operation with police to crack down on drugs. Police are also promoting a Dobbin website where citizens can be their community's, quote, eyes and ears and inform on others, all adding to a tense security environment in Fiji's capital. The beating involving Sakiasi came less than a week after Johnny Vakarisi died in a military prison cell. He too had been beaten by soldiers. Here's Buna again.
We were on the sidelines, like in the dark, nobody couldn't see us. But from the perspective of Sakiasi's girlfriend, she described that some were in uniform, some were not. So after they had beaten him up, they had taken him up to the station up here at Valley level.
But this, the family was later told, had never been logged or recorded.
They chose to take him now to the cop shop. But even in that, what we'd say now was the official arrest, there actually was no paperwork when they took him to the police station and locked him up.
Fiji police now acknowledge that there was a raid that night in April and that 12 police officers were present. A police statement described the beatings as, quote, failure to adhere to processes and procedures. The day after his death, Sakiasi's family say they received 3 separate visits in one day by police. Elizabeth, who lives in Australia, had dialed into one of them.
2 police officers had arrived. His body was probably not even cold by this stage. They had attempted to force my sister-in-law into signing a document to avoid any post-mortem from being done. She did not want to sign. She refused. Then out of the blue, a doctor had called and stated, look, there will be a post-mortem that will be done.
The post-mortem process was even more frustrating.
The police were allowed to just go in and out of that room, examination room. Then the doctor just advised the family, without passing the paperwork, that he had passed away because he had tuberculosis, TB, and AIDS. And then this doctor ended up changing his findings and said, oh, he died actually from pneumonia.
Frustrated, Elizabeth emailed Police Commissioner Rusiati Tudravu. This was his reply.
If you want to raise your grievances, then address your email to me. I will not action if I'm copied. Please have some respect to the office of the Police Commissioner.
The family is now pushing for a new post-mortem entirely. They feel as though the listed reason does not reflect what truly happened.
My nephew was sodomized. His head was stomped on. He was beaten. For them to sort of knuckle it down to just TB or this is pneumonia, no.
Buna and Elizabeth, along with the rest of the family, are now making arrangements for Sakiasi Osi's funeral. He was 32 years old. The Fiji military and police have not responded to requests for comment.
You don't have to choose between who you are and playing the sport that you love. That's the message behind Auckland's newest inclusive club rugby team, Te Papapa Wolves. The Onehunga-based team played their debut match last month, embracing players of all backgrounds, ages and orientation, especially Pasifika Rainbow and Takatapui communities. It's the second inclusive rugby team in Auckland, and its co-founder, Jay Fa'ata Vailuanga, says it's about the sport being a place where everyone belongs, where rainbow youth can see themselves, feel proud and know they have a home in the game. I went along to a Te Papapa Wolves home game and spoke to Jay Fa'ata Vailuanga, who also plays for the team, and began by asking him about how the vision for Te Papapa Wolves all started.
Thank you, Whaftailava, for the opportunity. Yeah, the idea and the vision started with a talanoa between myself and the mother of our team, Mama O, who's not here today. We just got together and I think it's a vision and idea that was inspired by, a lot of players, past players who've always wanted to have a Pacific kaupapa inclusive rugby team in Aotearoa, and there's never been one created. I mean, there was one that was started before, but there's never been one that's community rooted, that's based on, Pacific values. So, yeah, we came together, we reached out to Auckland Rugby, Michaela, shout out to Michaela. She connected us with Te Papapa leadership in the board. And so we came together and had a talanoa together and just talked about, what this team means, for the club and for the community. And so, and it turns out that the values of what this team is about aligns really, really well with the kaupapa of Te Papapa and what they're all about in terms of diversity, inclusion, weaving in, Pacific values that reflects the community in Onehunga and Te Papapa and in this area.
Going back to your personal experiences, what was it like playing for mainstream rugby teams that didn't have this kaupapa or mission or vision?
From my experience, it's mostly positive. I was really lucky to be in those mainstreams where I enjoyed playing, but I feel like I could never be authentically myself in there. As queer people, we have to adapt and we have to find different versions of ourselves, to suit the environment that we're in. And so, even though I enjoyed playing in those mainstream teams, I still feel like, I could never be fully myself. And I think this team is all about is to welcoming everybody, to be their authentic self and just be who you are and just enjoy playing rugby.
Why couldn't you be your authentic self in those mainstream clubs?
I feel like, rugby historically has never been an environment that celebrates our rainbow people, our trans people, or people who are different. It was a sport that was, very, very masculine and very structured and very patriarchal, and it never had a space for people like myself, even though there were a lot of us that played in those teams, but a lot of people couldn't come out, a lot of people didn't feel comfortable or safe to be their authentic self. They just had to put on a version of themselves, to fulfill their role of playing for those teams.
Since playing for Te Papapa Wolves, what has it done to your mental health or overall, just your well-being overall?
Oh, massive. I think for the first time ever, I look forward to coming to training. I look forward to seeing all the boys and all our supporters and everybody at the club. It's been a mana enhancing experience since we first, started as a team and as a club. I can speak for my mates as well and for everybody in our team. They love coming to training. Like our team is more than just being, an inclusive team for Rainbow, for our trans, for our takatapui, for our queer Pacific identity. It's also for everybody of all ages, of all abilities. We have dads. I think the oldest guy, the oldest person in our team is about in their late 50s and the youngest is 16. And so there's some really special connections and special relationships and interactions, happening within our team. Like we've got so many different people from different backgrounds. Got a dad and a son playing rugby for the first time together. We had parents who used to wait in the car and on the sideline where they come to drop off their kids in our junior teams. Now they see us, training on the other field and they jump in and then, it's such a beautiful connections and relationship. And yeah, it's been a huge learning journey for everybody, coming together and just learning from each other.
How do you guys actively address homophobia and transphobia?
I think for us, it's all about our why, what we're all about, what our values are. Our team is about, is rooted in our Pacific values, of alofa, of fa'aloalo, of love and respect for each other, of tautua, of service and inclusion. That's what our team is all about. And we're very intentional. That's what we stand for. And we have to start with ourselves first, our talanoa, building that culture, that inclusive culture within our team first, ensuring that it is a safe space, for everybody.
What message do you have for any young athlete that's struggling to come out to their teams?
It's okay. Oh my gosh, it's okay to be who you are. And it's okay. Take your time. That's your truth to tell when you're ready. When you're ready, that's your truth to tell. And to share with your loved ones, with your community, with your people, with your chosen family. You don't have to choose between who you are and playing the sport that you love. You can be both. And if you can't find a team that allows you to be who you are, that celebrates who you are and what you bring to that team, just know that there's a place for you here at Te Papapa. And then the Wolves, come play for the Wolves.
The producers of Nauru's first feature film hopes the project will inspire young Nauruans to explore careers in film. Shot entirely in Nauru, Far End of the Sea is a historical drama set in 1842 and follows a shipwrecked Scottish sailor who forms an unexpected friendship with a Nauru man amid local tensions. Tiana Haxton spoke to two of the producers.
I'm on Pleasant Island.
Nauru.
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 Kramer Kane, a Nauruan actor of 30 years based in Australia, has long dreamt of returning home for a local production. As a producer and lead actor, Kane says it was about showing his community what is possible in the industry.
It sounds cliche, but literally it's not just all about TikTok and Instagram and all that where you can perform. There's that old school medium of the creative side of film and magic of screen and TV and acting and stage and theatre.
For writer and producer Jamie Coffer, it was also a homecoming of sorts. While born in Australia, he calls Nauru his first home.
So my first memories of life, literal, is of Nauru, is playing in the backyard in our house in Nauru. And I've lived in other Pacific islands, but Nauru is a very special place because it's the people, it's my childhood home, and I love Nauru.
He too has dreamt of returning to Nauru to make a movie. Alongside an Australian film crew, they initially planned to employ 8 Nauruans, but the local community were so supportive they ended up with 50 more than they bargained for.
And they flourished, I think. They did amazing. They kept up with the pace and they went above and beyond, 4 a.m. starts to set up unit base in the bush in the middle of Nauru.
But they stepped up.
Exactly.
The film's premiere was widely celebrated in Nauru. Kane said community approval mattered more than any international recognition.
We didn't care what the rest of the world thought. As long as Nauru itself, they loved it and we were really proud that it turned out in a very positive way.
He says the project was also an opportunity to showcase the country's culture and identity at a time where they often only appear in international headlines for negative reasons related to their offshore detention centre arrangements with Australia. The filmmakers worked closely with cultural advisors to include traditional knowledge, historical attire, ancient language dialects and aspects of Nauruan history. Kane witnessed audiences connecting with seeing their homeland represented in a different light.
They love the language, they love the scenery, they love seeing Nauru again in that light and not in a documentary or in a news report, you know. And that was a big thing for them.
Coffer agrees, saying it was important for the film to reflect the people of the island nation.
The story, I wanted to create something that showed Nauru at its core, what it's at the heart of the Nauruan people, which is what I experienced when I was there. At the core of it is a story of two lost people, and anyone can relate. It's a story of love and loss and isolation and also friendship and the possibilities of what this could all be.
He hopes the film inspires aspiring Pacifica filmmakers across the region.
I think some of the best storytellers come from the Pacific Islanders, and I think it comes from the culture in the Pacific of, you know, being able to tell a story around a campfire, around a celebration, and just tell stories. I think it's an innate thing in the Pacific culture to be storytellers. And hopefully, you know, with the legends that exist in Nauru, you know, who knows what's next.
After premiering in Nauru in May, Far End of the Sea was released to the public free of charge on YouTube, attracting 500,000 views in 2 weeks.
Time now for our Pacific Sports Talanoa. With me is our senior sports journalist, Iliesa Tora. Malo Ili, let's start with the Sevens tournament in France. How did Fiji and New Zealand do in Bordeaux at the weekend?
Bulavinaka, the Bordeaux Sevens tournament closed off on Monday morning, marking the end of the 2025-2026 World Sevens Series. The event was the third tournament in the World Sevens Championship, which featured 3 tournaments in Hong Kong and Spain as well. Prior to that was the annual HSBC Sevens Series. The championship was also used as a qualifier for the Sevens Series, with the top 8 teams in the men and the top 8 team in the women's competitions securing their spots in the series for the 2026-2027 season, which will kick off in Dubai in November. Now, as far as the actual France Sevens is concerned, Fiji and New Zealand both fell short in the end. The Fijian men's team lost to South Africa in the quarterfinals 14-12 and then suffered another loss, disappointingly this time to USA in the 5th place playoff 17-14 and finished 6th in the end. The Fijian women also lost their quarterfinal, going down 29-14 to Canada and then lost again to France 24-12 to finish 6th as well. The New Zealand men's team, although they made the finals, they lost to France 14-5, while the women's team also went down 26-19 to Australia in their final clash. South Africa claimed the World Championship title for the men and Australia for the women. But the good news is both Fiji and New Zealand have qualified for the Sevens Series. The Fijian men are in with South Africa, New Zealand, Spain, Australia, Argentina, France and USA, and in the women's competition, Fijiana and New Zealand join Australia, Canada, USA, France, Japan, and Spain. In another news, straight after the France Sevens in Bordeaux on Monday morning, New Zealand All Blacks Sevens coach Thomas Idama Jr. announced that he was stepping away from the role and is not re-signing with New Zealand Rugby. Idama has been head coach since 2023 and says it is the right time to take a break after 150 tournaments as a player and coach in the New Zealand Sevens setup, which means that New Zealand will now have to look for a new coach to take over and guide them to the next Sevens Series.
There was some football action as well. Can you give us an update on that?
Yes, in football, Rarotonga is hosting the OFC Under-19 men's qualification event, which features Tonga, Cooks and Papua New Guinea. The first round of matches was held on Sunday and PNG defeated Tonga 4-0 to kickstart their campaign. Tonga will meet Cook Islands on Wednesday before PNG take on Cook Islands in the last game at the weekend. The Tongans must win big to keep their chances of qualifying for the championship in August alive, while the Cook Islands, of course, have their first game coming up. In FIFA international friendlies at the weekend, the Fiji women's team lost to Hong Kong 3-2, while the men's team went down 2-1 to Vanuatu.
And despite Fiji and Draw and Moana Pacifica out of the Super Rugby Pacific comp, which teams will be heading into the finals?
An exciting weekend of Super Rugby action. We came through with the semi-final playoffs, and now the top 4 teams who will fight off for the title have been confirmed. Competition leaders, the Hurricanes, thrashed the Brumbies 66-12 last Friday night here at home in Wellington, and they will host the Blues, who lost 34-59 to the Crusaders, but have qualified for the last 4 as the best losing team. The second semi-final will be between the Chiefs, second in the competition, and the defending champions Crusaders. The Chiefs beat the Reds 46-24 last weekend at the FMG Stadium in Hamilton. Now, one of the interesting factors at the weekend was the fact that a total of 42 players with Pacifica heritage were in action when the Super Rugby Pacific qualifying finals was played out. The first match on Friday between the Hurricanes and the Brumbies featured 15 players of Pacifica heritage, 12 for the host, including Captain Duplessis Kirifi, and 3 in the Brumbies side, which included Rob Valentini. The defending champions Crusaders had 8 in their matchday 23. The list included Fijian heritage players George Bauer and Super Rugby top try scorer Sevu Rees, while their opponents, the Blues, had 7, led by captain Patrick Tuipulotu. Chiefs had 7 in their playing squad, including Tongan heritage players Tupovai, Sampeni Finau and Samisoni Taukeaho, while the Reds had 5, which included Filippo Ndaunu and Lukan Sakalea Loto. And we look forward to seeing these players featuring again in semi-finals this weekend.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, soifua.